The lights of Sigma 1 two-way station flickered as they always did during the night cycle. Tejo wiped his hands on a dirty cloth and looked at the broken plasma cutter on his workbench. Another long night. Another pile of broken equipment waiting for his attention. He had worked at this station for 5 years now. It floated at the edge of human space, a place where traders, travelers, and refugees passed through on their way to somewhere else. Nobody stayed at Sigma 1-2 for long. It was a place between places, and Tejo was fine with that. He liked the quiet. He liked fixing things. He liked being useful. His friend Minho sat in the corner, eating noodles from a plastic container. "You should take a break," Minho said with his mouth full. "You've been working for 12 hours. One more repair," Tejo replied. "Then I'll eat." Minho shook his head. "You always say that." The alarm for docking bay 7 suddenly rang through the workshop. Both men looked up. That bay had been empty for weeks. No ships were scheduled to arrive tonight. Tejo checked the computer screen. A small shuttle had requested emergency docking. The identification codes were Valari. "Valari?" Minho stood up quickly. "What are they doing here?" The Valari Empire was powerful and old. They controlled 40 star systems and rarely interacted with humans. Their technology was advanced, their culture was proud, and they considered most other species beneath their attention. A Valari ship at a small human way station was very unusual. "Maybe they need help," Tejo said simply. He grabbed his tool bag and walked toward the docking bay. "Be careful," Minho called after him. "Valari don't like humans touching their things." Tejo waved his hand without looking back. Whoever they were, if they needed repairs, he would help them. That was his job. The shuttle in docking bay 7 was beautiful, even with the damage. Its hull was silver and blue, with patterns carved into the metal that looked like flowing water. But one side was burned and cracked. Smoke still rose from the damaged sections. This ship had been in a fight. The door opened slowly. Tejo waited, his hands at his sides, showing he meant no harm. A woman stepped out. She was tall, taller than most humans, with skin that had a slight purple tint and eyes the color of golden honey. Her hair was white and long, falling past her shoulders. She wore armor, but it was damaged badly. The shoulder plate was cracked, the chest piece was dented, and there was dried blood on her arm. She looked at Tejo with surprise. Perhaps she had expected soldiers or officials, not a young man in dirty work clothes. "I need repairs," she said. Her voice was cold but tired. "For my armor and my ship. I can pay." "I can pay." Tejo nodded. "You're hurt. Do you need medical help first?" She stared at him for a long moment. "My injuries are minor. The armor is more important." Most people would have argued. Most people would have insisted she see a doctor. But Tejo understood. Sometimes people had their reasons. He stepped closer and looked at her armor carefully. It was masterwork quality. The metal was something he had never seen before. The designs carved into it were incredibly detailed. This armor was worth more than everything he owned, more than everything he would ever own. This was not the armor of a common soldier or traveler. "This is beautiful work," he said honestly. "I'll need to remove some pieces to repair them properly. Is that acceptable?" Again, she seemed surprised. "You are not afraid to touch Valari equipment?" "Should I be?" She almost smiled. "Almost. Most humans would be." Tejo shrugged. "I'm good at fixing things. That's all I know how to do." He gestured toward his workshop. "Please, come with me. I have better tools inside." She followed him without argument. Minho's eyes went wide when he saw her. But Tejo gave him a look that said, "Don't ask questions." Minho nodded slowly and returned to his noodles, watching carefully. In the workshop, Tejo prepared his tools. He asked the woman to sit on a bench while he examined the damage more closely. The shoulder plate was the worst. The metal had been cut, probably by an energy weapon. Repairing it would require careful work. "May I ask your name?" Tejo said as he began removing the damaged piece. "I'm Tejo. Yuna," she said after a pause. Just the one word. No family name. No title. "Nice to meet you, Yuna." He began working on the metal, heating it carefully, reshaping it slowly. What happened? If you don't mind me asking. I do mind. Okay. He continued working without complaint. Yuna watched him. His hands were steady and skilled. He worked with complete focus, treating her priceless armor with the same care he would give to any broken thing. There was no greed in his eyes, no fear, no ambition. He simply wanted to fix what was broken. This confused her deeply. As he adjusted the shoulder plate back into position, he had to reach around her. His hands came close to her neck, her arm, her shoulder. Among the Valari, such closeness was forbidden unless you were family or bonded partners. Guards who touched her armor wore special gloves and performed rituals before and after. This human just did his work, humming quietly to himself. When he pressed the repaired plate into place, the metal pinched her skin. She made a small sound of pain before she could stop herself. Taeho immediately stopped. I'm sorry. Did I hurt you? It's nothing. But he was already holding out his hand to her. Here, he said gently. Hold on to me if it hurts. Sometimes it helps to squeeze something. She stared at his hand. It was rough with work, scarred in places, calloused from years of labor. It was a common hand. A human hand. No one had offered her their hand in 30 years. Without understanding why, she took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid. He smiled at her. A simple smile with no hidden meaning. Okay, he said. I'll be more careful. Tell me if it hurts again. He returned to his work, still holding her hand. And Yuna, Empress of the Valari Dominion, ruler of 40 star systems, and commander of 1,000,000 soldiers, sat in a dirty repair shop on a small human station and let a stranger comfort her. She had fled her palace 3 days ago. Assassins had come in the night. Her own guards had been killed. She had fought her way to a shuttle and escaped, not knowing where to go, not knowing who to trust. She had flown until her ship was damaged and her body was exhausted, and somehow she had ended up here, in this small, dirty, wonderful place, where a human held her hand like she was just a person. The shoulder plate is done, Taeho said finally. I'll work on the chest piece tomorrow. You should rest now. Are you hungry? The noodles here aren't great, but they're hot. Yuna looked at him. You would feed me? Of course. You're my customer. He smiled again. And you look like you haven't eaten in days. She had not. She had forgotten. Noodles would be acceptable, she said quietly. Taeho nodded and went to get her food. Yuna watched him go, feeling something strange in her chest. Something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt safe. 3 days passed on Sigma 1-2 way station. 3 days of quiet work, simple food, and something Yuna had almost forgotten existed. Peace. Taeho worked on her armor every day. He was slow and careful, treating each piece like it was precious. He asked her questions about the metal, about the designs, about how the pieces fit together, not because he was curious about her secrets, but because he wanted to do the job correctly. This symbol here, he said on the second day, pointing to a mark on her chest plate. Is it important? I don't want to damage it during repairs. Yuna looked at the symbol. It was the imperial seal, the mark of her bloodline. Only the ruling monarch could wear it. It is important, she said. Please be careful with it. I will. And he was. She slept in a small room that Taeho arranged for her. It was tiny, with a narrow bed and a single window that looked out at the stars. The sheets were old but clean. The room smelled like recycled air and metal. It was the most comfortable place she had slept in years. In her palace, she slept in a bed large enough for 10 people, surrounded by silk and gold. Guards stood outside her door all night. Servants waited nearby in case she needed anything. She had not slept well in that bed for a decade. Here, alone in a tiny room, she slept deeply and without dreams. Taeho brought her food 3 times a day. He never waited for her to ask. He simply appeared with noodles, or rice, or sometimes fruit that he said came from a human colony 3 systems away. You need to eat more, he told her on the third morning. You're too thin. I am not thin. This is the proper form for a Valari female. Maybe, but you still need to eat. He put an extra portion of rice on her plate. My mother always said that food heals everything. Broken bones, broken hearts, broken spirits. Eat enough, and you can survive anything. Yuna ate the extra rice. She did not tell him that she had not shared a meal with someone in 15 years. Empresses ate alone. It was tradition. Minho watched all of this with worried eyes. On the third night, he pulled Taeho aside in the workshop. Something is wrong, Minho said quietly. I've been monitoring communications. Someone is looking for a high-value Valari target. The signals are encrypted, but they're coming from multiple directions. Looking for Yuna? Maybe. I don't know who she is, but that armor isn't ordinary. And look at her. The way she stands, the way she speaks. She's not a common refugee, Taeho. Taeho had noticed these things too. Yuna carried herself like someone used to being obeyed. When she gave commands, she expected them to be followed immediately. She was clearly educated, clearly powerful, clearly important, but she was also tired. And scared. And alone. It doesn't matter who she is, Taeho said. She needed help. I'm helping her. Minho sighed. You're going to get us in trouble. Probably. The next morning, a human diplomat named Hana arrived at the station on routine business. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She worked for the human government, managing relationships with alien species in this sector. She found Taeho in his workshop and got straight to the point. There are Valari warships gathering near this sector. 5 of them, maybe more. Do you know anything about that? Taeho kept working on a piece of equipment. No. Hana watched him. I've heard you have a Valari guest. A woman. She's a customer. She needed repairs. Taeho. Hana stepped closer. I've known you for 3 years. You're a good man. But if you're hiding something dangerous, something that could bring war to human space, I need to know. Taeho finally looked at her. She was hurt and alone. That's all I know. That's all I need to know. Hana studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. If anything changes, tell me immediately. I will. She left. Taeho returned to his work. But his hands were not as steady as before. That evening, Yuna came to the workshop, while Taeho finished the last repairs on her armor. The chest piece was complete now, the metal smooth and strong again. The Imperial seal shone like new. It's ready, Taeho said, holding it up for her to see. I think I did okay. Yuna examined his work. It was perfect. Better than perfect. He had not just repaired the armor. He had improved it. The joints moved more smoothly. The damaged sections were now stronger than before. He had added small touches, improvements that even her royal craftsman might not have thought of. This is excellent work, she said, genuine surprise in her voice. You have great skill. Taeho smiled, embarrassed. I just like fixing things. He helped her put the armor on, adjusting each piece carefully, making sure everything fit correctly. When he reached the chest plate, he had to stand very close to her. His face was near her shoulder. She could feel his breath on her neck. She grabbed his wrist suddenly. Taeho froze. Did I hurt you? No. Her voice was quiet now. Different. Taeho. Be careful. Careful of what? She looked into his eyes. For a moment, the coldness was gone. For a moment, she was just a frightened woman who had found kindness in an unexpected place. You don't know who I am, she whispered. Taeho did not pull away. He did not step back. He held her gaze steadily, his expression calm and warm. You're right, he said. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you came from or why you're running or what happened to you. But I know you were hurt and tired and scared. I know you needed help, and I know that none of the other stuff matters. It matters, she said. It matters more than you understand. Maybe. He gently removed her hand from his wrist, but he held it for a moment before letting go. But right now, you're Yuna. You like your noodles with extra spice. You talk in your sleep, but I can't understand the words. You smile when you think no one is watching. That's who you are to me. She had no response. In all her years as Empress, no one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had seen her as simply a person. She was always the crown, the throne, the empire, never just herself. The armor is finished, Tejo said gently, but you can stay as long as you need. There's no rush. He walked away to clean his tools. Yuna stood alone in the workshop, wearing her repaired armor, feeling the weight of her hidden crown pressing down on her. She wanted to stay. She wanted to remain in this small, dirty, wonderful place forever. She wanted to eat noodles and sleep in tiny rooms and watch a kind human fix broken things, but the universe would not allow it. She could already feel her past catching up to her. The ships were coming. The truth would come out, and everything would change. She touched the spot where Tejo had held her hand. The warmth still lingered there, like a ghost of something she had almost forgotten. Something like hope. The alarms woke everyone on the station. Tejo jumped from his bed and ran to the observation deck. Through the large windows, he saw something that made his heart stop. Ships. Dozens of ships. Massive Valari warships dropping out of hyperspace, their hulls gleaming silver and blue in the light of distant stars. Minho appeared beside him, breathing hard. They're surrounding the station. We're completely blocked. Other station workers gathered around them, all watching in fear. The Valari fleet was enormous. Any single one of those ships could destroy Sigma 12 inches seconds. Together, they could wipe out every human outpost in the sector. What do they want? Someone asked. Tejo already knew the answer. He found Yuna standing alone near the docking bay. She was wearing her repaired armor, standing straight and tall. Her face completely calm. She looked like a different person. Gone was the tired, frightened woman he had helped. In her place stood someone cold and powerful, someone who expected the universe to bend to her will. Yuna, he said carefully. What's happening? She did not look at him. They found me. Who found you? Who are these people? Before she could answer, the station's communication system crackled to life. A deep voice spoke in the Valari language, then repeated the message in standard human speech. We are the Imperial Guard of the Valari Dominion. We are here to retrieve Her Supreme Majesty, Empress Yuna. Any attempt to interfere will be considered an act of war against the Valari Empire. Open your docking bays immediately. The station fell completely silent. Tejo stared at Yuna. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Empress. She was the Empress, the ruler of 40 star systems, the most powerful woman in this part of the galaxy, and he had been feeding her cheap noodles and scolding her for not eating enough. You're the Empress, he finally said. She turned to look at him. Her golden eyes were hard now, but somewhere deep inside them, he could still see the woman who had held his hand in the workshop. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because then you would have treated me like an empress. Her voice softened just slightly. And I needed someone to treat me like a person. Hana rushed toward them, her face pale with fear. Do you understand what's happening? The Valari Empress was on this station. If they think we kidnapped her or hurt her, they will destroy us. They will destroy every human colony in this sector. No one kidnapped me, Yuna said coldly. I will explain everything to my guards. She looked at Tejo one more time. Thank you for your kindness, human. I will not forget it. She walked toward the docking bay. Her steps were measured and proud. She was no longer Yuna the refugee. She was Yuna the Empress once more. The docking bay doors opened. A dozen Valari soldiers marched through, all wearing armor, far more advanced than anything Tejo had ever seen. They formed two lines and knelt as Yuna approached. Your Majesty, the leader said. We have searched the entire sector for you. The traitors have been identified. Your palace is secure. Please return with us. I will return, Yuna said. But first, you will understand something. She turned and pointed at Teho, who still stood frozen near the entrance. That human saved my life. He repaired my armor. He gave me food and shelter. He treated me with kindness when he believed I was no one important. He and everyone on this station are under my personal protection. Anyone who threatens them answers to me. The soldiers looked at Teho with new eyes. Some seemed confused. Others seemed disgusted. Humans were considered primitive by many Valari. The idea of their empress being helped by one was difficult to accept. A tall Valari general stepped forward. His name was Sung, and he was the commander of the Imperial Guard. His face was hard and angry. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "this human touched your sacred armor. He touched you without permission. This is a violation of Imperial law. I gave him permission. You are the Empress. You cannot give such permission to a human." Yuna stepped toward the general until they were face to face. Though he was taller, she seemed larger somehow. More powerful. More dangerous. "I am the Empress," she said quietly. "I can do whatever I wish." The general held her gaze for a moment, then looked away. He knelt before her, accepting her authority. "Forgive me, Your Majesty." Yuna turned back to Teho. The other humans had gathered behind him now. Minho, Hana, the station workers. They all watched in amazement and fear. "Teho," Yuna said. Her voice was formal, but her eyes were warm. "You showed me something I had forgotten. You showed me that power and kindness can exist in the same person. I will not forget this lesson." She reached up and removed a small pin from her armor. It was shaped like a star, made of some metal that glowed faintly with inner light. She pressed it into Teho's hand. "This is the Star of the Empress," she said. "Whoever carries it speaks with my authority. Keep it. If you ever need anything, show this to any Valari, and they will help you." Teho looked at the pin in his hand. It was warm, almost alive. "I didn't help you for a reward. I know." She smiled, and for just a moment, she was the Yuna he knew again. "That's why you deserve one." She turned and walked toward her soldiers. They surrounded her, protecting her, separating her from the humans. But at the entrance to her shuttle, she stopped. She looked back at Teho one last time. "Goodbye, Teho." "Goodbye, Yuna." She disappeared into the shuttle. The Valari soldiers followed. The docking bay doors closed. Through the windows, Teho watched the fleet turn and fly away, carrying the Empress back to her empire. The station was quiet for a long time. Finally, Minho spoke. "You made friends with the Valari Empress." Teho nodded slowly. "The most powerful woman in the galaxy." "Yes, and you fed her cheap noodles." Teho looked at the glowing star in his hand. "She said she liked them." Minho shook his head in disbelief. "This is the strangest thing that has ever happened." Hana walked over to them. Her face was thoughtful. "This changes everything. You know, the Empress, personally protecting humans. This could be the beginning of something new between our species." Teho was not thinking about politics or diplomacy. He was thinking about a tired woman who had held his hand and said she felt safe. He was thinking about her smile when she thought no one was watching. He hoped she would be okay. He hoped she would find peace, even in her palace, even with her crown. But somehow, he knew this was not the end of their story. Somehow, he knew he would see her again. 2 weeks after Yuna left, a Valari shuttle returned to Sigma 1 two-way station. It carried a message for Teho. The Empress requested his presence on the Valari flagship. She needed a technical consultant, someone with experience repairing Valari equipment. The message was formal and official, but Teho understood what it really meant. She wanted to see him again. Minho tried to convince him not to go. "It's too dangerous. You don't know anything about Valari politics. You could get killed." "Maybe," Teho said, packing his tools. But she asked for help. "I help people. That's what I do." He boarded the shuttle and traveled for 3 days through hyperspace. When he arrived at the Valari flagship, a massive ship called the Eternal Dawn, he understood for the first time how small humans really were in this universe. The ship was like a flying city. Thousands of Valari lived and worked inside it. The corridors were wide and beautiful, decorated with art and lights that changed color as you walked past. Everything was perfect, clean, magnificent, and cold. So, very cold. Soldiers escorted Tejo to his quarters. They did not speak to him. They barely looked at him. To them, he was an animal that their empress had chosen to adopt. Confusing, embarrassing, but not worth acknowledging. Yuna met him that evening in her private chambers. She looked different here. Tired again, despite being home. The weight of her crown was visible on her shoulders. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for asking me." Tejo looked around the room. It was enormous, filled with treasures and luxuries beyond imagination. "Nice place." She laughed softly. "I hate it." They talked for hours. Yuna explained what had happened. A faction within her own High Council had tried to kill her. They believed the Valari Empire should expand, should conquer weaker species, should dominate the galaxy through force. Yuna disagreed. She wanted peace and cooperation. The traitors had tried to remove her. They had failed, but they were still powerful. The conspiracy ran deep. She did not know who to trust. "But I trust you," she said quietly. "You have no reason to lie to me. You have no ambition, no desire for power. You just wanted to help." "I still just want to help," she smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen since leaving the station. Then, "Stay. Help me find the traitors. Help me save my empire." Tejo stayed. The next weeks were difficult. The Valari court was a maze of politics and secrets. Everyone smiled at the Empress. But Tejo could see the hate behind some of those smiles. He could see the fear behind others. No one spoke honestly. Everything was performance. But Tejo was different. He walked through the ship without pretending. He spoke plainly. He fixed things that were broken, talked to servants and workers, treated everyone the same, regardless of their rank. This confused the Valari nobles. This frightened them. A human who did not bow, who did not grovel, who looked at them with calm, kind eyes, instead of fear. It was unnatural. Some began to respect him. Others began to hate him. The assassination attempt came without warning. Tejo and Yuna were walking through a quiet corridor when a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a Valari in dark clothing, holding a blade that glowed with deadly energy. "For the true empire," the assassin said, and lunged at Yuna. Tejo did not think. He moved on instinct, pushing Yuna aside, putting himself between her and the blade. The weapon cut across his chest, burning through his clothes and skin. He fell. Blood, red and human, spilled onto the white floor. The assassin raised his blade for another strike, but Yuna was faster. She grabbed a weapon from her belt and killed him with a single shot. The body fell beside Tejo. "No," Yuna said, dropping to her knees. "No, no, no." Tejo looked up at her. The pain was enormous, but he managed a weak smile. "I think I'm broken. Can you fix me? Don't joke. Don't you dare joke." Her voice cracked. Tears ran down her face. "Why did you do that? Why did you save me?" "Because you're my friend." Guards arrived. Medical teams rushed him to the ship's healing center. The Valari doctors worked quickly, using technology far beyond human medicine. They saved his life, but barely. Yuna did not leave his side. For 3 days, while Tejo drifted between sleep and waking, she sat beside his bed and held his hand. The same way he had held hers in his workshop. The nobles whispered. The generals complained. An empress should not cry for a human. An empress should not hold his hand like a common lover. It was improper. It was shameful. Yuna did not care. When Tejo finally woke fully, he found her asleep in a chair beside his bed. Her hair was messy. Her clothes were wrinkled. She had not left the room in days. He squeezed her hand gently. She woke instantly. When she saw his eyes open, she made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "You're alive." "Apparently." He looked at his chest, wrapped in bandages that glowed with healing light. "That hurt a lot. You almost died. For me. A human almost died for the Valari Empress. I didn't die for the Empress." Teho met her eyes. "I almost died for Yuna." "There's a difference." She stared at him. In all her years of ruling, no one had ever said anything like that to her. She was always the title, never the person. Always the crown, never the woman beneath it. "Thank you," she whispered. "You already thanked me. I'll thank you 1,000 more times. I don't care." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against their joined hands. "I thought I was going to lose you. I thought I was going to lose the only person who sees me. I'm hard to kill," Teho said softly. "Humans are like that. We're small and weak, but we don't give up easily." She laughed through her tears. "No, you don't." Outside the medical room, General Sung watched through a window. His face was cold and thoughtful. The Empress had changed since meeting this human. She was softer now, more vulnerable. He did not know if this was good or bad for the Empire, but he knew that things would never be the same again. The human had become important. And in the Valari court, important people were always in danger. Seung turned and walked away. He had much to think about. The conspiracy was not over. The traitors were still hiding. And now, they had a new target. Teho healed slowly. Valari medicine was advanced, but his body was human. It worked differently, recovered differently. The doctors were frustrated by this. They were used to fixing Valari, not aliens, but Teho did not complain. He lay in his bed, ate his food, and asked questions about everything. How did the healing machines work? What made the bandages glow? How did they know when the wound was closing? The doctors found themselves explaining things they had never explained before, simple questions that required complex answers. They had used this technology for centuries without really understanding why it worked. "You ask many questions," one doctor said. "I like learning," Teho replied. "Everything can be understood if you look closely enough." While he recovered, Yuna investigated the conspiracy. The assassination attempt had revealed something important. The assassin carried a mark on his body, a secret symbol used by a faction called the Purists. They believed the Valari were the superior species, destined to rule all others. The Purists wanted war with humanity. They saw humans as primitive creatures who had spread too far, taken too many planets, become too confident. They wanted to crush them before they grew stronger. And they wanted to use Yuna's death to justify it. Kill the Empress, blame the humans, unite the Empire for war. This is what Yuna discovered in the weeks after the attack. The conspiracy was everywhere. Nobles, generals, diplomats. Even some of her own servants were purists in secret. She felt surrounded by enemies, but she was not alone. Hana arrived at the Valari throne world as an official human envoy. The human government had sent her to negotiate, to build bridges, to prevent war. She was smart and careful, and she brought news from home. "People are scared," Hana told Teho when she visited his room. "The Valari fleet at Sigma 12 frightened everyone. They think war is coming." "It won't come," Teho said. "Yuna doesn't want war. But what about the others? The ones who tried to kill her?" Teho looked out the window at the stars. "We'll stop them. Somehow." When he was strong enough to walk, he did not rest. He visited the ship's engineering sections, talked with the workers, looked at the machines. The Valari built beautiful things, but they built them for perfection, not for survival. "What happens when this breaks?" he asked a Valari engineer, pointing at a complex device. "It doesn't break. It was built correctly. Everything breaks eventually." "What do you do then?" The engineer had no answer. Valari technology was designed to never fail. When it did fail, They simply replaced it entirely. Tejo showed them something different. He took broken pieces of equipment that had been thrown away and repaired them. He added backup systems, secondary power sources, emergency shutoffs. He made things simpler so they could be fixed quickly in an emergency. "This is ugly," a Valari worker said, looking at his modifications. "But it works, and when it breaks, you can fix it in 5 minutes instead of 5 days." Some engineers dismissed him. Others grew curious. Human technology was less advanced, but it was practical. Humans built things to survive, not to impress. They expected failure and planned for it. This was a new way of thinking for the Valari. Word spread through the ship. A human who fixed things. A human who made broken technology work again. A human who survived an assassination attempt meant for the Empress. Some began to respect him. Others continued to hate him. But everyone knew his name now. The weapons master of the Imperial Guard was an old Valari named Dohan. He had served 3 emperors before Yuna. His skill with traditional weapons was legendary. And he hated humans. He came to Tejo's workshop one day, carrying an ancient sword. The blade was broken, cracked straight through the middle. "This was my grandfather's blade," Dohan said coldly. "It broke in battle 200 years ago. Our best craftsmen say it cannot be repaired. The metal is too old, too special." He dropped the pieces on Tejo's workbench. "Repair it, human. Prove your worth." Tejo looked at the broken blade. The metal was indeed special. Something he had never seen before. The crack ran deep, through the core of the weapon. Any normal repair would weaken it forever. But Tejo did not do normal repairs. He worked for 3 days. He studied the metal, tested its properties, learned its secrets. He used techniques from human sword-making, combined with Valari technology. He did not simply fix the crack. He filled it with something stronger, something that made the blade better than before. When he finished, the sword looked different. A line of silver ran through the old metal, marking where the break had been. It was not invisible. It was obvious. But it was beautiful. "Why did you not hide the repair?" Dohan asked when he saw it. "Because the break is part of its history now," Tejo said. "This sword was broken in battle. That's not a weakness. That's a story. It fell, but it got back up. Like a warrior." Dohan held the blade in his hands. He tested its weight, its balance. He swung it carefully, feeling how it moved. It was perfect, better than perfect. "This blade was broken for 200 years, he said slowly. "Generations of Valari could not repair it. And a human fixed it in 3 days. I just like fixing things," Tejo said simply. Dohan looked at him for a long moment. The hate in his eyes was fading, replaced by something else. Confusion, perhaps. Or the beginning of respect. "You are strange, human. I've been told that." Dohan sheathed his sword and nodded once. "Perhaps humans are not as worthless as I believed. Perhaps there is something to learn from your species after all." He walked away without another word. But Tejo noticed that from that day forward, Dohan no longer glared at him in the corridors. That night, Yuna came to see him. She had heard about the sword. "You're making friends," she said, smiling. "Just doing my job." She sat beside him in his small workshop. This had become their routine. Late nights, quiet conversations, moments of peace in a world of politics and danger. "The purists are planning something," she said quietly. "Something big. The Festival of Ascension is in 2 weeks. It's the most important ceremony of the year. I must attend. And I believe they will try to strike then. Then we need to be ready." "We?" She looked at him. "Tejo, this is not your fight. You could go home. You could be safe." "No," he said firmly. "I couldn't." "Why?" He met her eyes. The answer was simple, but saying it felt complicated. "Because you're my friend. And I don't leave friends behind." She reached out and took his hand. They sat together in the quiet workshop, surrounded by tools and broken things, waiting to be fixed. The storm was coming. But they would face it together. The Festival of Ascension was the most sacred ceremony in the Valari Empire. It celebrated the day, thousands of years ago, when the first emperor united the Valari people under one rule. Every citizen watched. Every noble attended. The empress performed ancient rituals before the entire galaxy. It was the perfect time for an assassination. Taeho worked day and night preparing for what was coming. With Minho, who had arrived with a human merchant convoy, and Hana, who had been gathering intelligence for weeks, he built a plan. The purists will strike during the ceremony, Hana explained. They plan to kill Yuna in front of everyone, then blame human assassins. They forged evidence, fake weapons, fake communications, everything to prove humanity attacked first. Then the Valari Empire goes to war, Minho added grimly. And humans lose. Badly. Unless we stop them, Taeho said. They had identified the leader of the purists. His name was Lord Guillaume, a powerful noble who sat on the High Council. He was rich, influential, and had spent decades building support for his cause. He believed completely that the Valari should rule the galaxy. Stopping him would not be easy. He was protected by guards, surrounded by allies, shielded by his position. Attacking him directly would only make things worse, but Taeho had a different idea. We don't attack him, he explained. We expose him. We show everyone the truth. How? Hana asked. Taeho smiled. We let him execute his plan. Mostly. The day of the festival arrived. The imperial palace was filled with nobles, diplomats, and citizens who had traveled from across the empire to witness the ceremony. The throne room was enormous, a vast hall of crystal and light where thousands could gather. Yuna entered in full ceremonial armor. She looked magnificent, powerful, every inch the empress she was born to be. The crowd knelt as she passed. Taeho watched from the shadows. He was not supposed to be here. Humans were not allowed in the sacred ceremony, but he had found ways to move through the palace that no one expected. The ritual began. Yuna spoke the ancient words, performed the ancient gestures. Everything was perfect. Beautiful. According to tradition. Then Lord Guillaume made his move. Guards loyal to him sealed the doors of the throne room. A group of assassins dressed in human military uniforms rushed toward the throne, weapons raised. The crowd screamed and scrambled away. Stop them, Guillaume shouted. Human assassins, they've come to kill our empress. But something was wrong. The assassins were not attacking. They were stumbling, falling. Their weapons sparking uselessly. Taeho had sabotaged them the night before, sneaking through the palace and disabling every hidden weapon he could find. And that was only the beginning. The great screens above the throne room, which usually showed images of the ceremony, flickered and changed. Suddenly, they displayed something else. Recordings, communications, evidence. Lord Guillaume's voice filled the hall. The human attack will justify everything. Once the Empress is dead, we can begin the true expansion of our empire. Another voice. And the fake evidence is prepared? Everything is ready. The galaxy will believe humans struck first. The recordings continued. Plans, conspiracies, confessions. Everything the purists had said and done, played for the entire empire to see. Hana had gathered the evidence. Minho had hacked the display systems, and Taeho had made sure the assassins could not interfere. The crowd turned to look at Lord Guillaume. His face was pale with shock and fury. This is a lie, he shouted. Human tricks. They're manipulating us. He drew his ceremonial blade and rushed toward the throne. If he could not blame the humans, he would at least kill the Empress himself. Taeho stepped out of the shadows and stood between Guillaume and Yuna. Stop, he said calmly. Guillaume stared at him. A human. A small, weak human standing in the path of a Valari noble. Move. Animal. No. Guillaume raised his blade. Then die. He swung. Taeho did not flinch. He did not run. He stood his ground, looking at death with steady eyes. The blade stopped an inch from his face. Yuna's hand had caught Guillaume's wrist. She had moved faster than anyone could see, crossing the throne room in a heartbeat. Now she held the traitor with a grip that could crush stone. "You tried to destroy my empire," she said coldly. "You tried to start a war that would kill millions. You tried to blame innocent people for your crimes. They are not innocent," Guillaume spat. "They are humans. They are nothing. They are everything." Yuna's voice echoed through the silent hall. "This human saved my life. He healed my armor. He stood beside me when my own people tried to kill me. He faced your blade without flinching because he believed in something greater than fear." She threw Guillaume to the ground. Guards surrounded him immediately. Yuna turned to face the crowd, the entire Valari Empire watching through screens across 40 star systems. "I have seen the hearts of humans," she announced. "They are small, brief, fragile. They live such short lives in such weak bodies, but they are braver than any species I have known. They do not bow easily. They do not break easily. And when they stand beside you, they do not run." She walked to Taeho and stood beside him. "This man is my friend. He asked for nothing in return for his kindness. He risked everything to protect me and my empire. If this is what humans are, then we have nothing to fear from them. We have everything to gain from their friendship." The hall was silent. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Then another. Then more. General Seung stepped forward and knelt before Yuna. "Your Majesty speaks wisdom. The purists have deceived us. It is time to see humans clearly." One by one, the nobles knelt. The guards knelt. The entire throne room knelt before the Empress and the human who stood at her side. Lord Guillaume was dragged away, screaming curses that no one listened to. The conspiracy was broken. The war was prevented, and Taeho, a simple mechanic from a small way station, had helped save 2 civilizations. He looked at Yuna. She looked at him. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I just fixed what was broken," he replied. She laughed, a real laugh, full of relief and joy and something that might have been love. "Yes," she said. "You did." 6 months passed after the Festival of Ascension. 6 months of change, healing, and new beginnings. The Human-Valari Alliance was signed on a space station halfway between the 2 empires. Leaders from both species gathered to witness history. Treaties were exchanged. Promises were made. For the first time in centuries, the Valari opened their borders to another civilization. Hana was promoted to ambassador, the first human to hold such a position with the Valari. She worked tirelessly to build bridges between the species, creating exchange programs, trade agreements, and joint research projects. Minho started a repair business that served both humans and Valari. His workshop became famous for combining the best of both technologies. He hired workers from both species and taught them to learn from each other. Taeho received dozens of offers. The Valari wanted him to lead their engineering corps. Human corporations offered him fortunes to develop new technology. Universities wanted him to teach, governments wanted him to advise. He refused them all. He went home to Sigma 1-2 way station. The station was the same as he had left it. Small, dirty, beautiful in its own way. The lights still flickered during the night cycle. The food vendors still sold cheap noodles. Travelers still passed through on their way to somewhere else. Taeho reopened his workshop and went back to work, fixing things, helping strangers, doing what he loved. People thought he was crazy. He had been offered power, wealth, fame. He had turned it all down to repair equipment at an old way station. But Taeho understood something that others did not. He was not made for palaces and politics. He was not made for speeches and ceremonies. He was made for quiet work, simple kindness, and the satisfaction of making broken things whole again. He was happy here. That was enough. 3 months after his return, a shuttle docked at Bay 7. Taeho recognized the design immediately. His heart beat faster. The door opened. A woman stepped out. She was not wearing ceremonial armor. She wore simple clothes, comfortable and practical. Her white hair was tied back casually. She carried a small bag over her shoulder. She looked like any other traveler, but Tejo knew better. Yuna. God. Tejo. They stood there for a moment, looking at each other. So much had happened. So much had changed. But when he looked at her, he still saw the tired woman who had arrived months ago, asking for help. Nice clothes, he said. I borrowed them from a servant. No one recognized me on the way here. Isn't that dangerous? You're the Empress. I have guards watching from orbit. She smiled. But they know not to follow me here. She walked toward him, slowly, like she was afraid he might disappear. I missed you, she said quietly. I missed you too. You could have stayed. On my ship. I am what I want to be. He gestured at his workshop. I like it here. I like fixing things. I like helping people. I know. She stood in front of him now. That's why I came to you. Not the other way around. He did not understand at first. What do you mean? I mean that I will keep coming. Whenever I can escape my duties. Whenever I need to feel like a person instead of a crown. I will come here. To this station. To you. She reached out and took his hand. If that is acceptable, Tejo looked at her. The Empress of 40 star systems, standing in his dirty workshop, holding his hand like she was afraid to let go. He smiled. I'll make sure to keep extra noodles in stock. She laughed. A real laugh. Bright and full of joy. She had laughed more in the past 6 months than in the previous 20 years. They walked together into the workshop. Tejo had projects waiting. A broken navigation computer. A damaged life support unit. Normal work for a normal day. Yuna sat in her usual spot, the corner where she had waited while he repaired her armor all those months ago. She watched him work, asking questions, learning about the things he did. Do you know who I am now? She asked after a while. He looked up from his work. What? That day in the workshop. You said you didn't know who I was. You only knew that I liked extra spice in my noodles, and that I smiled when I thought no one was watching. Tejo thought about it. He thought about everything that had happened since then. The revelations. The danger. The battles. The alliance. Yeah, he said finally. I know who you are now. Who am I? He put down his tools and walked over to her. He knelt in front of her chair so they were at the same level. You're Yuna. You like extra spice in your noodles. You hate formal meetings. You talk in your sleep. But I still can't understand the words. You smile when you think no one is watching, but now you smile when people are watching too. Her eyes were wet, but she was still smiling. What else? You're kind. You're brave. You want to do good things for people. Even when it's hard. You see me as a person, not as a tool or a novelty or a political symbol. He took her hand in his. That's who you are to me. The rest, the crown, the empire, the 40 star systems, that's just your job. It's not you. A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, but more followed. No one has ever said that to me before. Then they weren't paying attention. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing together, feeling the warmth of each other's presence. I will have to go back soon, she whispered. Meetings. Duties. The weight of the crown. I know, but I will return. Again and again. As many times as I can. I know. Will you wait for me? He squeezed her hand gently. Always. Outside the workshop, the stars burned in the endless dark of space. Two civilizations were learning to trust each other. The galaxy was changing, growing, becoming something new. And in a small workshop on a tiny way station, a human mechanic and an alien empress sat together in comfortable silence, holding hands, feeling safe. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but sometimes, the greatest wonder of all was finding someone who saw you, truly saw you, and loved what they found. Tejo returned to his work. Yuna watched him, her heart full. Outside, a new dawn was rising between the stars. But here, In this moment, they had something simpler and more precious. They had each other, and that was enough.